how to deal with dealers, pit bosses, um, slot techs, and other players. It can get complicated sometimes. So starting with dealers, when I was a card counter, uh, it was just a hateful environment, and I wasn't really traveling that much. I was just getting away with it because I did, I would cut out as soon as I won a certain amount. But I we mentioned in other videos, I would go to a casino and sit at a blackjack table, and the dealer wouldn't deal. He would just keep looking at the surveillance up, the ceiling. And it's just, I mean, if you're a traveling advantage player, who cares? But if you don't want to travel and you get deals like that, it gets frustrating. So that's how it's just can't explain the difference in the way we develop this system now. So if you're following the system, you're going to be a different person in a casino. You're going to get a lot of respect. People are going to be happy because dealers are making money off of you. You make, especially depending on the games you're playing. And, dealers are not casino owners. They get minimum wage, and they depend on tips. And the only way people tip them is if they're winning, right? But 99% of the time, people are just losing. Every once in a while, someone gets lucky and bang, they're winning, and they tip. But most people just keep losing. So it's when you come in and you're playing these games, one of the reasons you're winning for the card games is because you're beating the dealer. The dealer is getting busted because the way you're playing. That's why when you sit at the table, other players will give you money. Like you'd be sitting there playing. Let's say you show up and the person is down to like just a few chips. They've lost hundreds and thousands. And you show up and all of a sudden you're busting the dealer, and they're not stupid. They say, something happened here. What's going on? All of a sudden I'm winning. What's happening is you're the one. You're the reason they're winning now. Because the way you're playing the game is you're causing the dealer to bust. And you're winning, and so are other players. They have to play decent, They have to be a player. They can't just make foolish mistakes, So, in those instances, you are like a superstar, and you'll hear the word. You're a superstar. You're a rock star. You hear those things. At the same time, so what happens in those situations? Like I said, the player that went from almost busting, that made hundreds and hundreds all of a sudden, before they leave, they'll give you $100 chip, or a couple of $25 chip. And they obviously tip the dealer. So the dealer is very happy now. They don't care about busting, all they care about is getting tips, So now you're looking good to the dealers, right? Hopefully. There are some dealers that are just losers. And theirs are more for their own. Their ego is more important than getting tips. And there's going to be situations where people have lost so much. You walk over to the table, they've lost so much already. But after they start winning, they can't really afford the tip because they're just trying to get their money back. So in those cases, the dealer is not going to be happy. So it can get complicated. But in most cases, and then we've talked about the craps game, they're going to be so happy you're walking, because when you walk up to the table, you'll see all those people that usually play crafts, they start showing up at the table. And all of a sudden, the table's packed now. All of a sudden, do you realize how happy the pit bosses and dealers are at that point? There's nothing worse than a table that's just sitting there empty, because what that usually means is that they're going to cut back their hours. They don't need them. Nobody's playing. See, so when you walk up there and all of a sudden people come out of woodworks and they start bidding money, they're going to get paid. They're going to get their paychecks and tips, because when you shoot and you're making everybody money, most craps players, they're tippers, so everybody's just happy in those cases, okay? And again, it can get complicated. You get some loser dealer or pit boss that for some reason has got a hair up his thing, and he starts picking on you. He says, "Oh, you got to hit the back wall." I'm trying to do. I mean, it's not like every throw I'm not hitting the back wall. Once in a while, you throw it short. So big deal. You're gonna get those. But overall, I can guarantee you that you're gonna walk in there like a king. You're gonna go home like a king. That's whether you win or lose, or some nights you're gonna lose. But who cares? Because it's when you win that your winning nights are a lot more than your losing nights. But losing has to be part of it. Back to the coin toss that we've talked about here. It must happen. It cannot. You cannot just go in there and win every night. It's impossible. But we'll get used to that. We get used to losses, and because we have to, we have no choice. As far as pit bosses, again, they are just like dealers. They're in most cases they share tips, so they're gonna have the same nice behavior towards you. So you don't have to worry. And then, it's nice because, to be honest with you, most dealers that I've run over the years, most dealers that I know are terrible players. Why? Because they're trained with basic strategy and, whatever is out there, right? And that's what they follow. And basic strategy is, yeah, sure, you can win a little bit, but in the long run, you're going to lose. So, there are certain things that they won't do. They're not going to become advantaged players unless they quit the casino industry. So as a general rule, they're terrible players. They do that, and they'll tell you this. They don't like to play because every time they play, they lose. So what's the point, right? They'd rather just deal because they get paid. So, and the nice part about all of this, is you're going to get a lot of respect when you walk in, because the dealers are just in awe. You go, how does this person play all these games and they win every single one? So it's just a nice feeling. That's as far as the dealers, the pit bosses. As far as the slot machine techs, that's one crowd I never figured out. I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to look at them, and I don't like them looking at me. For some reason, that's one crowd I cannot understand. They always got this strange look on their face. I don't know what it is, Once in a while you might see someone that's, they're pleasant to talk to, but most of them are not pleasant at all, They're just like a different crowd than the dealers. I think I think the only training they have is, they give them a screwdriver and they open the machine. There's still minimum wage, and they just, like I said, this person with a screwdriver. So I never figured them out. So I would say don't worry about them. Don't even pay attention to them. Just do your thing. But as far as the other stuff, with this system, I would say you're going to see a huge difference. You know, if you used to be a card counter and they treated you like dirt, that's all going to change. So that's good news. Now the players, there's going to be two sides. Okay. If you're playing blackjack, like we just discussed, and if the player has any skills, they're gonna worship you. That's the bottom line, okay? Because you're gonna help them win. But if the person is just should not be playing, then they may not necessarily even like the way you play, and that's always been an issue anyway, because people don't like the way we play, okay? Because we're advantage players and we have deviation that we follow, the card counting rules that we follow, and so this is totally against. They lose every night. So then all of a sudden, you're hitting the 16 against 10, dealer 10, and they just have a fit, So there's really nothing you can do about that. Hopefully they just leave the table. If they don't leave the table and they start to get funny, you might want to take a break. You don't want to confront anyone, because remember, it's your casino, not theirs. They don't need to. They're not making a living. They're just gambling. So they don't care if they lose a casino. They just go to another casino. But we can't afford to lose casinos. So any sort of confrontation, you want to just maybe leave your chips there if you want. Go and sit down, drink some coffee or something. Come back and see if the person leaves. But I would not mess with a situation like that. So that could happen at blackjack too. It could be just as bad in the Spanish 21 table, because the techniques that you learn here, you'll see that you might be sitting at a particular seat and the person to your left or to your right was getting those suited matches or unsuited matches, and all of a sudden you join the table and now you're getting them. So they can really, really freak out, and they could say things and get mad because they feel like you're stealing their matches, So it's obvious. And if that happens, the same, I would, if you've made money, then maybe it's time to check out, But if you haven't made money, I would just not do a conversation. Let them say whatever they want. Just talk to them through the dealer. Don't ever talk to the player if they're drunk and they're upset, whatever. I would never ever talk to the player. Anything they want, they can tell the dealer. The dealer can tell you. And if you have something to say to them, you tell the dealer. But sometimes you can't leave the table because you need those suited matches and you gotta stay. So unfortunately, that's a tough situation. But it's not Spanish 21 is not a typical card counting game, so it's less likely that they get funny. The pit bosses and them. It's a lot less likely that they get funny. So I would stick around the table, but as soon as you get a hit, the 300, 400, or $700, I would just check out. I'd leave and come back another day. So, same with Baccarat. It's the same way, because these people, they just lose and lose because they start writing down the history of. And none of that works. You have to learn how to count the Baccarat game. The craps table, you will have. If the players are making money off of you, of course they're gonna love you, right? But if there's a couple of good shooters in there, then they might not like you because you're better than them, And in those cases, it's not like table games, and there's nothing to worry about, But it's just good to know why they're behaving the way they are. They're just jealous. That's all it is, But usually it irons out because the dealers, if they try something, like you'll get into a situation where you just roll and people are just making fortunes off of you, you'll hear somebody says, "I'm gonna vote you for president," because they've made just a fortune off of you. And then the other good shooters, they get jealous, and what they do is they keep sticking their hands in the table to cause you to throw a 7, and just I would say nothing to them. You can't tell, "Hey man, can you watch your hand?" I would not say stuff like that. I would just stop shooting. I just wait for them, And then when the pit boss and dealer and everybody sees you're staring at that person, then, hopefully they get the message, Or, more, I've had situations where the pit boss jumped in. He says, "If you stick your hand in there one more time, I'm going to ask you to leave." They get tough with them because they know what they're doing. They're not stupid. And they don't want people to stick around and, get the table going, So these kind of things are going to happen. You'll have these paying people that will mess with you even when you were winning on the slot machine. It's like, "So how did you do that?" Just smiles. This is lucky, man. Lucky night. And that's actually a really good line to use every time somebody asks you, "How did you get a bonus and win that hand at the same time?" This is, it never happens. This is the only time I've ever been lucky like that. You want to blame it. You want to stress on luck, and never anything like technical. I'm playing good. None of that. So those are the things that you could expect. You expect both sides of the coin once you start doing this. But the players could be a pain, because if they're regulars, they could, throw you under the bus. Say, "Oh, I think this person is an MIT professor number, is card counting," or they could say, "He's shooting the dice with too much technique." They could do that. But if you see a situation, you just have to check out, leave. I would not mess with players. And you're gonna get some dealers and people that don't like you. It's gonna happen, even with this program. I'm not talking about just straight card counting. I'm talking about this program where everybody's gonna respect you. There's gonna be some people. So usually, a good way to get them to hush is just, give them some money, give them some tips. That settles all the problems. But if you're making money, it might be worth it, because you want to keep that casino. And if you see somebody that's constantly on your case, give them $20. They'll use your hush. We can go on forever on this subject, but I think this is enough for now. And please like the video and subscribe. Thank you for watching.